Good morning students. In this video we can discuss about basic blocks and flow graphs. So here we are constructing the flow graph for the given intermediate code representation. So to construct flow graph for the given intermediate code representation, we divide intermediate code into different basic blocks and then treated each and every basic block as a node in the flow graph construction. So this is the overall concept of basic blocks and flow graph. That means in this session we can discuss how to divide intermediate code representation or intermediate code into different basic blocks and then how to construct the flow graph for the that particular intermediate code. So these are the details we discuss in this session. So first of all, while we will go for constructing the flow graph for the intermediate code representation, so with the help of this flow graph we can generate better target program or better executable program, so without interference of the target code. So that means to constructing these flow graphs there was no need of any involvement by the code generator. So without their inference or their reference, so we can easily construct flow graph for the given intermediate code representation. So here while we will go for constructing the flow graphs, so here whatever the process of register allocation and then where that particular values can be defined and how that particular values can be used. So these all things can be, we can easily select we can easily known by the help of flow graphs and also by using the selected instructions. Based on such instructions we can easily know these details, like whatever the register allocation for the variables, and then so that registers can be stored which values and those values are stored at which memory locations. These all details can be easily accessed with the help of or easily accessed or easily known with the help of flow graphs. So for that purpose we are constructing the flow graph for intermediate code representation before generating the target code. So while we will go for representing the intermediate code as flow graph representation, so for that purpose we are using the several construction procedures or several functions or several simple construction methods. So that is first of all partitioning the intermediate code into different basic blocks. So here each and every basic block is a contains some number of sequence of consecutive 3 address instructions. So that means by simply here basic block is a either one or more sequence of consecutive 3 address code instructions. So here how we can decide or how we can divide such a sequence of intermediate code instructions as a basic block means, so here the flow of control can only enter the basic block through the first instruction in the block. So that means while we will go for constructing the flow graphs for the given intermediate code representation, in this process the flow of control, that means execution process or execution control, can be entered into that particular block with the help of first instruction of that specific block only. So that is either first instruction of that particular block or either no jump statement in that particular block. So at the same way here while we are leaving the controlling from that particular block without ending or without halting or without branching or except possibly at the last instruction in the block. So that means so whenever we are trying to enter into that particular block, so with the help of some starting instruction of that particular block, so that is the one procedure. So that particular starting procedure or starting instruction doesn't contain any looping statements like branching statements or loop statements. So that is for entered into the block. Whenever we are exiting from the block at that time, so we are not halting that particular program execution or we are not using or not terminated any conditional branching statements or unconditional branching statements. So we can leave from that particular block whenever that is the last instruction of that specific block, then only we can exit from that particular block. Flow of control can be exit from the that particular block. So these are the basic rules to construct basic blocks. And next, so here each and every basic block become a node of flow graph. So that means, so in flow graph each and every node is a one basic block, and then here whatever the edges between one basic block to another basic block, that is one node to another node, so such edges are, so that edges is for either sequence of the last instruction of the basic block 1 immediately starts the next instruction. That instruction is exist in next basic block, then only we are branching from basic block 1 to basic block 2 in this manner. So that is the procedure for branching the branching or linking the one basic block to another basic block, or one node to another node in the flow graph. So in this process we can transfer we discuss about the transformations from flow graphs, so that turn the original intermediate code into optimized intermediate code, from which better target code can be generated. So that means with the help of these flow graphs, so the intermediate code representations can be termed or transformed as a better target code or well optimized intermediate code. So that means with the help of flow graphs, the output of the flow graph is better optimized intermediate code representation. So with the help of this better optimized intermediate code representation, we can easily generate the better target code. So that is the one advantage with flow graphs. And another one is the optimized intermediate code is turned into machine code using the code generation techniques. So this optimized intermediate code representation can be directly generated as the target code or machine code with the help of code generation phase or code generation techniques. So this is the overall process of basic blocks and flow graphs. By simply, so to construct flow graph, we are using the each and every node in flow graph as the one basic block. So these basic blocks is either starting of that particular instruction. So that means once a control flow can be entered into that particular block with the first sequence or first instruction of that particular block. At the same way, that control flow can be exit from the basic block whenever that particular statement is the end of the statement of that particular block. And then with the help of these control flow graph mechanism, so we can generate the optimized intermediate code representation. Here source or input is the intermediate code representation and output is the optimized intermediate code representation. With the help of this optimized intermediate code representation, we can easily generate the better target code. Next, so how we can divide intermediate code representation into different basic blocks. So in this process, that means while in the process of constructing the flow graphs, so our first job is, or our first function is, so how to divide such 3 address instruction into basic blocks. So for that purpose, so we begin a new basic block with the first instruction. So that means in 3 address code representation, we can consider first basic block is nothing but the beginning instruction of that particular 3 address code instruction, and keep adding instructions. So that means the beginning instruction is the first basic block, so it exists in the first basic block, and then also we can add some other instructions to the first basic block of that particular intermediate code representation if next instruction or other instruction doesn't have any jump statement, any conditional jump, or any labels on that particular instruction. Then we can treat as those all instructions as a single basic block. So in the absence of jumps and labels, so control proceeds sequentially from one instructions to the next instruction. So that means, so there, for example, let us assume there are 4 lines of intermediate code representation. So in this process, while we are generating the flow graph for those 4 lines of intermediate code representation, we can start with the first line of first instruction. So this first instruction is must be basic block 1, and the remaining 3 instructions, in case it doesn't have any branching statements, any conditional branching statements or any label statements, then those 3 statements is also treated as a basic block 1. So in this process, the flow of control or execution process can be performed sequentially one after another. So this is the process. So to decide or to construct basic blocks, we can use the some algorithm. So that is partitioning 3 address instruction into basic blocks. So for that purpose, we are using this specific algorithm. So this algorithm have some input and some output, and we are using we are approaching some method to generate the 3 address code into basic blocks. So here input is a sequence of 3 address instructions, and the output is a sequence or a list of the basic blocks. A list of the basic blocks for that particular intermediate code representation. So here whatever the method we are converting from intermediate code representation to basic blocks is basically it was depending on the three instructions or 3 rules. So with the help of these 3 rules, we can divide 3 address code instruction into basic blocks. So out of those 3, first rule is the first 3 address instruction in the intermediate code is a leader. So that means to constructing the basic blocks, we can identify the leaders. Each and every leader is a one basic block. That means that particular basic block can be started with that specific leader. After that, after completion, after that, whatever the instruction treated as a leader. So in case next instruction is not a leader, then which is the part of the first basic block. In case there are 3 lines, just assume. So first line is treated as a some leader, and second line is also leader. Then in basic block 1 contain only one instruction, that is first instruction. So in case out of those 3 lines, first instruction as a leader and second instruction is not a leader and third one is also not a leader. So then we treated as these 3 statements as a single basic block. So that means with the help of these leaders, we can easily define or we can easily identify whatever the different basic blocks in the given intermediate code representation. So for that purpose, so we follow the first rule, that is the first 3 address instruction in the intermediate code is a leader. So that means from the given intermediate code representation, whatever the first instruction, so that instructions can be treated as a leader. So leader means nothing but that is a some basic block. And second rule, so any instruction that is the target of a conditional or unconditional jump, this type of instructions is also treated as a leader. So here second rule is, in case there is some instruction, so that instruction is target of the any conditional jump or any unconditional jump, then that particular instruction is also treated as a leader. And third one, any instruction that immediately after third rule is any instruction that immediately follows a conditional or unconditional jump is also treated as a leader. So that means, for example, there are three statements. First statement is a leader, and then after immediately following statement is also treated as a leader. Sorry. So here the third rule is, for example, there is a 3 statements. So first statement is a leader and second statement having a some conditional or unconditional jump, then the third instruction is also treated as a leader. So these are the 3 rules. So first rule is first instruction of the 3 address code representation is treated as a leader, and second one is any instruction is the target of any conditional jump or unconditional jump, then that particular instruction is treated as a leader. And third one is any instruction after immediately follows the any branching statement or any conditional or unconditional branching statements, then also such statements or such instructions can be treated as a leaders. These are the 3 rules to divide the intermediate code representation into several basic blocks. So now consider some example and we discuss how to divide that particular 3 address code representation into several basic blocks. So this is the some intermediate code representation for matrix representation. So that matrix is represents the identity of the matrix, 10 by 10 matrix. So here it contains total 17 lines of 3 address code representation. So here as per rule 1, first 3 address code instruction, so this is a leader. So here I equal to 1 is a leader. And next, as for rule 2, so if there is any instruction is the target of any conditional jump or any unconditional jump, then that particular statement is also treated as a leader. So here consider 9th instruction. If j less than or equal to 10, then go to third line. So that means here. So here third line is also one leader. From 11th instruction, if I less than or equal to 10, then go to second instruction. So second instruction is also a leader. And from 17th line, so if I less than or equal to 10, then go to 13th line. So this 13th instruction is also a leader. So from rule 1, first instruction is a leader. From rule 2, second instruction, third instruction and 13th instruction. These 3 are the leaders. From rule 3, so what is the rule 3? Any statement after immediately follows either conditional jump or unconditional jump. So that means here 10th one. So here 9th one is a conditional statement or some branching statement. So that's why 10th one, and 12th one. So here 11th one is also some conditional statements. So that's why 12th one. So these two are the these two are also leaders as per rule 3. In case here there exists 18th instruction, then 18th instruction is also a leader. But here it was 17th instruction is the end of the intermediate code representation. So that's why there was no need to consider 18th instruction as a leader. So that's why till now whatever the leaders from the above algorithm is, first statement from rule 1, this is a leader, and second statement, third statement and 13th statement. So these are the leaders from second rule, and from third rule 10th statement and 12th statement, these are the leaders from third rule. So these are the leaders. So now we can observe how to construct flow graph for these leaders. So before going to constructing the flow graph for basic blocks, so we discuss one more concept, that is next use information. So here the simple intention of this concept, the overall brief information about this concept is, whenever we will go for executing the any program, at that situation we can able to know at the time of executing current instruction, we can able to guess whatever the variable was used in next instruction, whatever the variable or whatever the memory location was used for next instruction. So such type of information is very helpful for generating the target code and then complete the execution of that particular program. So for that purpose we are using the next use information. So that means knowing when the value of a variable will be used next is essential for generating the target code or better code. So that is, if there is some value of a variable that is currently in a register, will never be referenced subsequently, then that register can be assigned to another variable. So with the help of this information, for example, there is some variable value in some register R. So that particular variable value, whatever the was allocated in register R, so such information was never used. So then we can allocate that particular register to the any another variable. For that purpose we are using this information, next use information. Next, now we know how to construct flow graphs. So already previously we discussed, while we will go for constructing the flow graph, first of all we divide the intermediate code representation into basic blocks and then construct each and every basic block as a one node in the flow graph representation. So that's why while we will go for constructing the flow graph from basic blocks, so we are majorly using several rules. Those are while we will go for constructing a flow graph, here each and every node is a basic block. Each and every node is a basic block. And then while we are generating some edge from one block to another block, for example from block B to block C, so that edge can be possible if and only if so it is possible for the first instruction in block C. So in C block, first instruction is follow the last instruction in block B. So that means, for example, just assume there are 6 lines of 3 address code representation, and first 3 lines as block B and the next 3 lines as block C. So in this process, while we are branching some edge from block B to block C, which is possible whenever block C is the immediately next element of the next instruction of the last instruction of block B. So that means, just assume block B last instruction is third instruction, and block C first instruction is the fourth instruction of intermediate code representation. So in this situation, we can edging from edge or one branch from block B to block C. So in this process, here B is known as predecessor of C, and C is the successor of the B. Next, after knowing these two rows, these two nodes, so call it the entry and exit. So after knowing such information, so whatever the nodes and whatever the branching, so that means connections between one node to another node, we are adding 2 nodes. So those 2 nodes are entry node and exit node. So here entry node is used to indicate the starting of the execution, starting or beginning of the execution. So with the help of this entry node, so the execution will be begins from this particular node. And exit node, so this node indicates, so the execution of that particular target code or that particular intermediate code representation was terminated or completed. At that time we can use the exit node. So these 2 nodes are added to the basic blocks. So entry node was added at beginning of the flow graph, and exit node was added at end of the flow graph. Now we discuss how to construct flow graph for the above discussed example program, that is 10 by 10 identity matrix program. So already we discussed how to divide basic blocks for that particular 3 address code representation and whatever that several basic blocks. So now we discuss how to constructing the flow graph for that particular 3 address code representation. So here block 1 contains only one instruction, that is the beginning of the 3 address code instruction. Why? Because next instruction, that is second instruction, is the leader for second instruction is also leader. So that's why block 1 contains only one instruction. At the same way B2 also contain only one instruction. So now the only successor of B1 is the B2. Why? Because block 1 contains the first line of the intermediate code representation, and block 2 contains second line of the intermediate code representation. That's why, so this is the block 1 and this is the block 2. So and then this is the block 3. Third statement is also another block 3. So here block 3 was starting from third instruction, and the fourth instruction 5, 6, 7, these all are 8 also. So 5, 6, 7, 8, these all are not having any conditional or unconditional branching statement. So that's why third block is starting from third instruction up to 8 instruction. 3 to 8 are third block, and ninth one is the 3 to 9 as the third block, and 10th one is the block 4. Why? Because after any conditional or unconditional branching statement, so that statement is also treated as a leader. So that's why here 10th statement is also leader. So that's why this is the block 4. So here block 4 contains these two lines, and here 12 is the block 5. Why? Because 11th instruction contains some conditional statement. So that's why from 12 11 yeah, so 12 is the another basic block, and next here 13 is also another leader, so that's why this 13th is the another basic block. So from 13 to 17 we are not having any conditional or unconditional branching statements, that's why so these all are treated as a one more block. So totally 6 blocks in the these 3 address code representation. So now we observe how to constructing the flow graph for that particular intermediate code representation. Just now we discussed, we add two nodes, entry and exit. Entry node can be added at before the basic block 1, and exit node can be added at the end of the flow graph. So that's why entry node and exit node. And here B1 is the first basic block, and B2 is the second basic block, and B3 is the third basic blocks, which contains the code or sequence of instructions from 3 to 9. So third instruction, fourth instruction, fifth instruction, 6, 7 and 8 instructions, and 9th and 10th instructions as the block 4, and only 11th instruction is the another block. Why? Because only 12th instruction is the another block. Why? Because from 13 to 17 we divided as a another basic block. So this is the flow graph for the our discussion code 10 by 10 identity matrix code. So that 3 address code can be converted into flow graph in this manner. So first of all we are identify what are the several basic blocks for the given intermediate code representation, and then branching one basic block to another basic block by using whenever basic block 2 is the after completion of the basic block 1. So that means whatever the instruction was used in basic block 2, that is the after completion of the basic block 1, immediately next instruction is existing in basic block 2, then we can branching from B1 to B2 in this manner. So this is the process of constructing flow graph from the intermediate code representation. So now we discuss how to representing the flow graphs. So just now we observed in above example, so that means above diagram, how we are constructing the flow graph representation. So whenever we are representing the flow graph, so we are replacing the jumps to the instruction numbers or labels by jumps to the basic blocks. So that means here, so in this, so here each and every basic block can be treated as a one node. So that's why we are rearranging that particular blocks in some sequential manner. So and next these flow graphs can be in quite ordinary graphs. So these flow graphs can be represented by any of the data structures appropriate for graphs. So in this process, whatever the content of the node or basic block, so which contains some instructions are their own representation. So that means that particular content of the basic block may be represent as maybe contain some pointer. So some pointer to the leader. So some pointer to the leader. Already just now we discussed what is meant by leader. So with the help of this leader, it can representing some array memory or some array addressing instruction. So that means this leader is the beginning of the array indexing, and whatever the next instructions in that particular basic block, those all are arranged memory locations within this array. So this is the process of constructing flow graph from the intermediate code representation. And next, so in this process, whenever we are observing the loops, how we are defining or how we can generate the flow graph for the loops. So basically, while we will go for executing any program or any programming language, so such programming language was constructing the some loops like while statements or do while statements or for statements. So naturally, so these all statements can be treated as the loops in programs. So in this process, so whenever we are executing some program, so every program maximum time of the execution time spending the more time or maximum time for the execution of loops, executing their loops. So that's why while we will go for generating the target code, these loops are the major important concept to generate the good code for the loops. So while we will go for generating the target code for the loops, so we can consider some small considerations like as there is a node in L called the loop entry. So with the property that no other node in L has a predecessor outside the L. So that means there is some instruction. So that instruction there is some set of instruction. Those set of instructions can be represented as some label. So in this process, so whenever we are entered into that particular label, so entered into that particular loop with the help of this L instruction, that means we mentioned with L, so that means which indicates some entry for that particular loop or that particular label. So by indicating this L, we can enter into that particular loop, and each and every time we entered into that particular flow graph, whenever we are observing the label or L. Next, so every node in L has non-empty path completely within L to the entry of L. So whenever we are entered into any label, so then that particular label must be having at least one or more instruction. So it not having any zero instructions, that means it doesn't having any instructions means there was no proper meaning for the labeling. Whenever we mention some label means that particular label must be contain at least one instruction. So now from the above example, now we discuss what are the several loops. So now consider above flow graph. So here B3, block 3 is the sum loop, and block 4 is the another loop, and block 6 is the another loop. So here this block 3 is contains its self. So that means beginning of the instruction is T1 equals to 10 star I, end of the instruction is if j less than or equal to 10, then go to block 3. So that means whenever the j value is less than or equal to 10, again control will be go to the itself. Coming to the block 4. So here block 4, okay. So here block 3 and block 6 are having the control to the itself. So that means those loops are itself called, itself executed several times. But consider block 4. So once this part of the instruction was executed, again go to block 2. So here the loop after immediately completion of this one, it was in case this condition is true, again go to B2. So that means this B2, it was depending on the from block 4 control is moved to block 2, again block 3, again block 4. In case again this condition is true, again go to B2, B3, B4. So that's why here total loops are, so one is B3, another one is B6, this one is the another loop, and another loop is from B4 to B2, B2 to B3, B3 to B4. So this is the third loop. So these are the loops in this free address code or in this flow graph. So with the help of these flow graphs, we can easily know or we can easily identify whatever the loops. So that's why here B3 is the loop by itself, and B6 is also another loop by itself, and the third loop is B4. So that is starting from B4 and then move to B2 and then B3 again B4. So this is the third loop, B2, B3, B4 again B2. So these are the several loops existing in above discussed example 3 address code representation. These loops can be easily identified or easily recognized with the help of flow graphs. Whenever we can identify or we can easily represent the loops, then we can generate better target code. So these are the this is the one advantage with loops. So these are the details about some basic blocks and flow graphs. Thank you.